In the news tonight, Kurdish Peshmerga forces launch a fresh attack on Daesh as part of a campaign to recapture Mosul, and the Red Cross warns once fighting intensifies, 1 million people will be at risk of displacement. Libyan forces make advances in Sirt, the former stronghold of Daesh, after securing several key sites in the city this week, assisted by U.S. airstrikes against the terrorist group's positions. And Nice remains in mourning 1 month after a Bastille Day celebration was transformed into a nightmare when a terror attack left 85 people killed and over 300 injured. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. We begin with Syria, and Syrian and Russian aircraft intensified attacks on the north and northwestern parts of the country, targeting Daesh positions as the Syrian army engaged in fierce battles in southwestern Aleppo to halt advances by opposition factions. The Russian Defense Ministry said 6 Russian bombers carried out airstrikes on Daesh near the city of Deir ez-Zor, releasing a video showing jets dropping bombs. The ministry said Daesh control points, 6 ammunition warehouses and 13 military vehicles were destroyed, while a number of terrorists were killed. Heavy fighting, meanwhile, was reported to take place in different sectors of Aleppo as rebels' opposition forces assaulted 2 government strongholds in the city of northwest and south. Fighting for control of Aleppo, split between its government-held west and rebel-held eastern neighborhoods, has intensified in recent weeks, causing hundreds of deaths and depriving many civilians of power, water and vital supplies. Insurgents launched an attack on the Jamhiyat al-Zahra district, an army base and residential district, before attacking the army's positions in a cement factory on the city's southwest, adjacent to the mouth of a corridor into opposition-held east of Aleppo that the insurgent had opened up a week ago, breaking a government siege. In Iraq, Kurdish Peshmerga forces launched a fresh attack on Daesh terrorists as part of a campaign to capture Mosul. The advance began after heavy shelling and airstrikes by the US-led coalition. With a pre-war population of nearly 2 million, Mosul is the largest urban center under the group's control.
Kurdish Peshmerga forces have their sights set on Mosul. It's the de facto capital of Islamic State in Iraq, and together with US-led coalition airstrikes, the Iraqi army and Kurdish forces are gradually taking up positions around the city. The forces launched a fresh attack Sunday with heavy shelling. IS fighters returned fire with mortars and car bombs. So far, a Peshmerga commander says they've taken 11 villages from IS. The forces are targeting the town of Guer, about 40 kilometers southeast of Mosul. From there, officials hope they can take back Mosul, marking what Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi says would be the effective defeat of Islamic State in Iraq.
According to the International Committee of the Red Cross, once the fighting intensifies around Mosul, up to 1 million people could be driven from their homes in northern Iraq, posing a massive humanitarian problem. And over to Yemen, where Yemeni army forces backed by Saudi-led coalition aircraft killed about 40 suspected Al-Qaeda fighters as they fought their way into 2 of the group's strongholds in eastern Yemen. Since April, Al-Qaeda terrorists have repeatedly withdrawn from the Hadramaut provincial capital of Mukalla in April, but have returned in Zinjibar and Har, the capital of Abyan. According to the governor of Abyan, while 40 of the group's members were killed, others have fled the 2 cities. 3 soldiers were killed in the operation and several others were wounded. Hundreds of government troops battled their way into Zinjibar, a city of some 100,000 people, and captured the local government headquarters from retreating Al-Qaeda members. And Libya forces said that they made advances in Sirt, the former stronghold of Daesh in Libya. The forces, led by brigades from the city of Misrata and aligned with the UN-backed government of Tripoli, secured several key sites in Sirt this week, assisted by US airstrikes against Daesh positions. Daesh terrorists are reported to be encircled in Sirte's central residential areas. Yesterday, the brigade said they gained control of a radio building previously used by Daesh for broadcasting. The United States began airstrikes in Libya earlier this month, and as of Thursday, they have carried out 41 strikes targeting the terrorist group's fighting positions, vehicles and weapons in Sirte. Back here at home, President of the Independent Elections Commission, Khaliad, said the upcoming parliamentary election is an indicator of the country's stability, especially in light of the ongoing regional turmoil. At a meeting with students from the University of Jordan to encourage the youth to take part in the polls, Khaliad said the success of the elections is the responsibility of every citizen, including young men and women. And assuring these students of the integrity and the transparency of the process, he said some 150 international organizations will be taking part in monitoring the election, in addition to 5,000 cameras that will be fixed at the various polling stations. The election is scheduled to take place on September 20th. Meanwhile, the Independent Election Commission has renewed its call for local and foreign journalists to register their names for the media coverage of the upcoming parliamentary election, pledging to do all that is required to facilitate their job. The IEC has set September 10th as the deadline for the accreditation of local journalists under ad hoc instructions posted on the Commission's website www.iec.jo. The Commission also urged local and foreign journalists as well as audiovisual and print media representatives that meet the prerequisite to visit the IEC website, where they can review the relevant instructions and fill in the needed applications for accreditation. 1 month has passed since a Bastille Day celebration in France was transformed into a nightmare when a 31-year-old French Tunisian drove speeding a truck of 2 kilometers along a crowded promenade, killing 85 people and injuring over 300. A state of emergency in the country was extended following the attack, and today the city remains in mourning. Here's more.
It's now been 1 month since a Tunisian-born Frenchman drove a truck through crowds celebrating Bastille Day in Nice. And as seen at City Hall, where French flags hang with black ribbons, a symbol of death and mourning, the tragedy remains in the hearts and minds of residents and tourists alike.
I felt the need to come back after what happened. Last year was the first time I came to Nice, and I had a beautiful memory of this place. I owed it to myself to be here.
The Islamic State claimed attack killed 85 people. Their names rest on banners at City Hall, and their lives honored at makeshift vigils across the city. For some, the attack proved the ease at which some attacks can be carried out, and for others it proved that some attacks simply cannot be stopped.
We know very well that zero attacks does not exist in all countries, even those at war. What really plays a role is in what time frame they can stop a person carrying out the attack before he can do any harm, and that seems impossible to avoid.
A harsh reality in a country that is trying to move on from its latest attack.
Pakistan marked its 70th Independence Day, keeping events muted across the country in respect of victims of a suicide attack that claimed at least 74 lives earlier this week. Pakistan was carved out of British India at the stroke of midnight on August 14, 1947, as the British Raj in the region finally came to an end. Hoisting the national flag at a ceremony in Islamabad, Pakistani President Mamoon Hussain paid tribute to the Quetta victims and vowed that their blood would be avenged. In Karachi, capital of the Sindh province, there was also a hoisting of the flag at the mausoleum of the nation's founder. All traffic across the country came to a halt and sirens blared to mark the day.
ख़वातीन और हज़रात, अब सदर मुमलिकत वज़ीर आज़म इस्लामी जमहूरिया पाकिस्तान कौमी परचम आज़ाद फ़िज़ाओं में लहराएंगे।
ये कौम के वक़ार का परचम है, ये परचमों में अजीम परचम अताए रब्बे करीम।
The population of the Queensland mining city of Mount Isa has doubled this weekend for the Southern Hemisphere's largest bull riding festival. Riders from Australia, New Zealand and the United States have made the journey to outback Queensland to try and get their hands on the record $230,000 prize. Joining them and competing for his title is Haider Al-Hasnawi, the Iraqi cowboy who is no stranger to danger. The 17-year-old Haider moved to Australia from Iraq when he was 10 years old and lived through war in Iraq as a small boy. Though Haider didn't earn any points at the rodeo this week, he says he has learned a lot from his fellow competitors. From his life in Iraq to riding bulls at the Mount Isa Mines Rodeo, he feels he can use the adversity of his former life to help him become a competitive bull rider in Australia.
There he goes outside, round to the right in front. Out the back door, pop the hand. And
it's the atmosphere and that all about it, and the adrenaline rush and that. Like it's just a good feeling nowadays. Like for me anyway. Like and for any bull rider, it's just a good feeling to be on the back of a bull and just nod your head and go out that chute, and everything's just like everything's in like your whole life's in front of you kind of thing. Well, it's a big rodeo, and I just wanted to, like it'd be good to try and get a win at such a big rodeo, and like it'll give you, like well known and that then, and yeah, it's just and it's good to come over here because there's a lot of good riders come from different places, and it's just good to try and compete against them, and if you, like if you come first or like you must be.
And finally, moderate conditions continue for the rest of tonight with northwesterly moderate to brisk winds. Tomorrow, normal summer conditions prevail in hilly areas, but it remains hot in the Jordan Valley and the Dead Sea. Winds will be northwesterly moderate to brisk, raising dust in the Badia region. The Gulf of Aqaba should continue to expect high temperatures tomorrow with northerly moderate to fresh winds and slightly high seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And to end the news, here's a recap of our top stories. Kurdish Peshmerga forces launch a fresh attack on Daesh as part of a campaign to recapture Mosul, and the Red Cross warns once fighting intensifies, 1 million people will be at risk of displacement. Libyan forces make advances in Sirs, the former stronghold of Daesh, after securing several key sites in the city this week, assisted by US airstrikes against the terrorist group's positions. And Nice remains in mourning 1 month after a Bastille Day celebration was transformed into a nightmare when a terror attack left 85 people killed and over 300 injured. And with this we come to an end. I'm Farah Ajlouni. Thank you for watching and have a good night.